Hi there, my name is Mr. Jakes from Basement Brothers, and today I'm playing a game called Farland Saga. Previously on the channel, I made separate videos for all 7 of the Farland Story games for PC-98, plus Farland Story 8 for Windows. Then I took a break from the series, but it's been over a year now, and it turns out that the next 2 games, Farland Saga 1 and 2, are about to be re-released for modern platforms. And before you get your hopes up, no, I haven't heard any plans for an English translation. So now I guess you have to watch this video if you want to know what the game is about. The new re-release will contain emulated versions of the Sega Saturn ports, but in this video I'm going to be playing the original Windows version of Farland Saga 1, released in 1996. It was originally a big box PC game, but I have the budget re-release from the year 2000. Inside we have the disc, OBI, and a survey card. The manual is very basic. I bought this copy of the game in 2002, and though I don't remember finishing it, I did play pretty far into it on my crappy old Fujitsu FMV laptop running Windows Me. Ugh. This time I tried installing the game on Windows 10 along with the latest update patch, which is still available on TGL's site. Not sure if the re-release version actually needed the update, but I installed it just in case. However, the game had serious display issues. Now, I'm actually pretty confident in my ability to get old Windows games running on modern machines. After all, I do have to deal with that fairly often on this channel, and I have lots of tools in my arsenal. But this one broke me. I tried for 2 days and just couldn't get it to display right. It felt so close to working, and I suspected it was a relatively recent change in Windows causing the issue. So this may seem like overkill, but I ended up installing Japanese Windows 7 with this installation disk and extra hard drive I had laying around. Then, as I suspected it would, the game displayed perfectly. The only remaining issue was that the CD audio didn't repeat when the tracks ended, but luckily I already knew how to fix that using DX Wind after experiencing the same issue on Farland Story 8. Surprisingly, even the latest version of DX Wind works on Windows 7. So let's finally play. The Saturn port has an opening sequence, but here in the original we're taken straight to this load screen where we have to choose new game. Now, you'll notice right away that unlike Farland Story, Farland Saga uses an isometric perspective, and you'll probably also notice these pre-rendered CG graphics for some of the objects in the background. Looks pretty 90s. I think we might be in Donkey Kong country. But actually, Farland Saga stars 2 orphans named Leon and Ralph, who were raised by a man named Brian. Unfortunately, the characters are silent here in the original Windows version. Voices were added, though, for the Saturn port. Strangely, the Japanese voices were added back into the Windows version when it was released in China and Korea. I'm jealous. By the way, in Korea, Farland Saga was renamed to Farland Tactics. I wonder if that might have anything to do with a certain other game that was out by that time. Anyway, at the beginning of Farland Saga, Brian is taking Leon and Ralph on their first trip to the big city for reasons he has yet to explain. On the way there, they are attacked by some easy monsters, and they take it as an opportunity to do some light training. Awesome, let's do this. Farland Saga plays exactly the way you would want an isometric version of Farland Story to play, and the gameplay is intuitive even if you've never played a Farland game. The bad dream that was Farland Story 8 has been completely forgotten, and things play more similarly to the classic entries in the series. The awesome side view animation will surely be missed, but Farland Saga does a good job of making the animation both quick and fun to watch, right here on the main view. I never felt the urge to turn the animation off. The biggest change would have to be the lack of counter-attacks, which were a major part of Farland Story's gameplay. Instead, now we have to worry about which direction the characters are facing. One welcome change is that now you can choose to attack first before moving, if you happen to already be right next to an enemy. Also, we're back to being able to save at any time in the stage, with even an autosave occurring at the beginning of each turn. And another Farland staple, having items to pick up on the map, is back as well, and this one even has some of the enemies drop items in gold to pick up. There are also subtle sparkly spots on later maps, and this is where you find the good stuff. Honestly, the system in Farland Saga is really well done. Everything works the way it should, at least once you figure out some of the less intuitive functions like trading equipment. On the way to the big city, Brian stops in a small town to visit his biological son and his family. Pay special attention here to Brian's granddaughter, Karin. She even appears on the confirm screen before you end each turn. She's quite an energetic little girl, who they say has been studying magic and shows a natural talent for it. Next, before they get to the city, the party encounters a runaway carriage that goes over a cliff. But luckily, one of the two occupants was a siren, which means she has wings. She's a royal attendant named Marcia, watching over the princess of the kingdom named Fam. Marcia recognizes Brian as a knight who used to serve in the royal guard, and she introduces him to Fam before flying off to get help. But after she does, the four of them are attacked by a wizard named TT, who wants to take the princess for ransom. This is pretty much a joke villain though, and it's probably not much of a surprise that he'll be joining the party later. For now, Princess Fam joins as we fight TT on this mountain. The multi-level terrain is a big aspect of the gameplay in Farland Saga. This looks like something that Qbert would come hopping down. Man, I wish I had the editing skills to make Qbert come down this mountain. Oh well, let's do it anyway. The party corners TT at the top of the mountain, but he gets away on his pet vulture. Some noblemen from the castle stop him though, and he's presumed dead. Everyone heads back to the castle, since that's where Brian was going anyway. Hey look, is an Easter egg. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be Kushna and Shay from Farland Story 5. The story of Farland Saga is a bit more mature and difficult to follow than previous entries. I'm going to do my best to tell it, but apologies in advance if you happen to get lost partway through. It turns out that the occasion is the signing of a peace treaty between the human kingdom of Barth and the demon kingdom of Turku. The demons include vampires and elves, similar to previous Farland Story games. A demon nobleman named Avi takes a particular interest in talking to Leon and Ralph before he is called away for business. Now, someone's going to accuse me of spoiling the plot here for sure, but keep in mind this is still the very beginning of the game, and I need to explain this part to even get to the main plot. Fam finds Avi dead, and the Turku soldiers who find her are ready to kill her right there on the spot. Turkish soldiers? But Brian comes by and saves Fam by killing the soldiers. The party then has to escape from the castle, and they are joined also by Marcia. So Fam is blamed for the murder of Avi, and the demon kingdom of Turku declares war on Barth, immediately killing the king and queen and burning the castle to the ground. Wow, that was some quick retaliation. With nowhere else to go, the party returns to the village where Brian's son lives, only to find it destroyed, with Karin the only survivor. Of course, she then joins the party. Karin is a strong magic user despite her age. The magic system in Farland Saga is completely different from Farland Story. For one thing, the game has MP. What the hell? Farland games don't have MP? So rather than the one spell per turn system of Farland Story, Farland Saga actually has more of a standard magic system. I don't even really have to explain it. Just imagine what a standard magic system would look like in a game like this, and that's probably it. Marcia has the spell which grants characters an extra turn, similar to previous games, and even the attackers have MP for using their extra strong attack abilities later in the game. When you do regular attacks with a straight running start, you can get critical hits, where the screen suddenly goes to a zoomed in view. It threw me off guard the first time I saw it, and I thought the game was broken, but it looks cool once you get used to it. And by the way, you've really got to be careful with the spear weapons in this game. Whoops, sorry about that. There are shops and money in this one again, and the shops occur between predetermined stages. The interior of the shop just appears on screen suddenly with a different character there each time. Sometimes there's a story-related reason for the character to be there at the shop, but most of the time the character is just as confused how they got there as we are, and the game makes it into a joke. We are also joined by an elf named Ophelia, who reminds me a lot of the classic Farland elf character Lucida. You'll even see a lot of familiar enemies in the game. The setting of the game is actually the classic world of Farland, where Farland Story 1 through 5 took place. I think they never should have introduced the sort of multiverse aspect in Farland Story 6 through 8. Ark, the protagonist of the first 3 games, even gets name-dropped for the first in a long time, as an ancient king of legend. Lucida is mentioned too. One reference to the later games is here though too, in the form of 2 spells called Summon Meisha and Summon Alicia. Extra bonus points if you recognize those names. In Farland Story 6, Meisha and Alicia were 2 sisters who were actually guardian angels reborn in human form. Here they definitely appear in their angel forms, and unfortunately their faces aren't recognizable. Farland 6 took place in a different world from this one, but I guess they're connected closely enough that they can be summoned here. For Farland Saga, we are back to the main character designer of the series, Kazue Yamamoto, who did the designs for Farland Story 3 through 6. The familiar style of her characters assures us that this is indeed a Farland game. Farland is back, baby! This calls for a celebration just like old times. We gotta do the thing, right? In this one, there's brandy as a usable item again, and this time it unfreezes frozen party members.
You know, alcohol doesn't really make you warmer. In fact, it constricts the blood vessels, causing—
Shut up.
Anyway, let's pour. Perfect. I'm gonna enjoy this. So the party seeks help from the neighboring human kingdom of York, which hasn't had exactly the best of relations with Barth up until now, but they figure they have no reason not to help them this time, considering their mutual enemy, the demons. Fam pleads with their king to stop the fighting, but the King of York instead plans to crush the demons using a secret weapon. The party is locked up but saved by one of the demons named Helios, who is a close ally of Fam's. It's important to remember that the demons aren't necessarily evil. Helios tells the party to run away and seek out a wise man in the mountains. He knows what the King of York plans to do, and I think the reveal of the king's plan will have to count as a spoiler, so I'll put a warning here. The king uses a forbidden spell called Terra Hawk, which is capable of destroying entire armies of demons. The party even finds the secret lab where the kingdom has been conducting experiments on demons in order to complete the spell. After the king has used the spell, one of the demon leaders named Kaiser comes to assassinate him, with the use of the forbidden spell as justification. I guess it's a war crime. It turns out that the spell only wiped out their front line, and teaching the king the spell in the first place was a setup by Barga, the same one who framed Fam for killing Avi, the real culprit who wanted to start a war with the humans. Ophelia guides the party to the wise man in the mountains they were told to seek out, and afterwards she takes them to her hot springs resort she manages for some fan service. Wait, she runs a hot springs resort? Okay. On the way there, Leon meets a suspicious girl named Leanne, who he invites into the party. Oh no, their names are Leon and Leanne? How am I going to keep those separate? It's soon revealed that Leanne is a half-human, half-vampire, and not only that, but the party visits her childhood home and learns that her father was Avi, the demon who Fam was framed for killing. But wait a minute, Leon notices something strange in this painting. Avi is painted as a human, and instead it is Leanne's mother who is the vampire. Avi was actually a great human hero from Barth named Gren, who was thought to have died in the war with York 17 years ago. And Brian tells Leon, oh yeah, by the way, Gren is your dad, so Leanne is your half-sister. So it turns out that rather than dying in the war, Leon's father Gren was saved by demons and taken to their country, Turku. His wife, Leon's mother, thought he was dead and died soon after of grief. While Gren was being nursed back to health, a vampire named Elena fell in love with him, and Gren ended up fathering Leanne. But guess what, Elena dies soon after too. Then so Brian comes to Gren and says, don't you think it's time you came back to your son Leon now? And Gren says that now he is living as a demon named Avi, and that he's doing important work to bring about a peaceful future between the humans and demons. So he asks Brian to continue raising Leon. And so that's that. Back to the present day, the demons of Turku are now planning to rule the world by opening a gate to the demon world and summoning a Dark Lord. Cause how else do you wrap up a Farland game? The only one who can open the gate is someone from Lian's demon bloodline, and for that they plan to use Kaiser, who it turns out is Lian's other 100% demon half-brother. Kaiser has figured out by this time he's being manipulated by Barga, but decides he's already in too deep to back out. In fact, he still insists on fighting and being defeated by the party. Barga sacrifices himself in order to revive the Dark Lord, and here in the space between worlds, the party has to fight the Dark Lord named Terra Hawk, the same name as the Forbidden Spell. This is actually kind of a hard battle that I got game over on more than once. After defeating the end boss, it looks like the party is stuck here until they die, and Ralph says that at least he and Fam can be together to the end. Oh yeah, Ralph and Fam are kind of a couple. But wait, says Kaiser, since he and Lian are the key to opening the gate, they should be able to close it by combining their power. Lian says goodbye and the party finds themselves back in Farland, but without Lian and Kaiser. And then, without a word, the credits roll, and afterward we get a quick shot of Lian returning to Leon, with no explanation. The game asks you to save and dumps you back into Windows. But what was that save file for? Load it up and you get the after story, otherwise known as the rest of the game. Leon narrating explains that he found Lian while wandering around the ruins in York, but now her eye color has changed and she is fully human. Perhaps she had sacrificed her demon side in order to close the gateway, they speculate. Anyway, in the after story, the party is investigating a sudden resurgence of monsters, and we have to fight through 4 extra hard stages of the game before arriving at a tower, where we then have to fight through 20 floors of single-room battles. These don't take very long since it's easy to hit them with multiple enemy magic. At the top of the tower, we fight a zombie version of Avi/Gren, who comes to his senses after being defeated in order to say one last goodbye to Leon and Lian. He apologizes especially to Leon, since after all he did basically leave Leon and start a new family, while allowing Leon to believe he was dead. So anyway, the main game has 25 stages, and the after story has an additional 25, though most of them are just short single-room maps. The after story really feels like it's intended to be just bonus content for those who want more. Afterward, we get the credits again, except this time they're in English. A lot of names from the Farland story games also appear here. For the music, we have Kenji Ichio, who became the main composer for the series starting with Farland Story 8. Yuko Anzai, who did the music for Sword Dancer 2, which I also covered on this channel, and lastly Tomo Kasahara, who, whether justified or not, I theorized was the magic ingredient who made the music in Farland Story 5 so good. And indeed, I would say the soundtrack of Farland Saga 1 is generally a bit higher quality and more memorable than the majority of entries in the series. In addition to the CD audio that I've been playing throughout this video, in this one you can also choose MIDI instead, and apparently the game is specifically made to support GS MIDI in addition to regular general MIDI. So let's get out the same Roland GS MIDI module I sometimes use with the PC-98 and do a comparison. So here's the Saturn version. As I just showed you, the music uses the Saturn's built-in electronic sequencer rather than the CD audio from the Windows version. That's probably because the game is constantly loading data from the disc before every move and every sound sample. I'm not sure why they did it this way rather than loading more into RAM, but the game may be poorly optimized and using a bit too many recorded samples. The character movement is also a bit slower. The graphics look a lot worse than the Windows version to me, and again I have to wonder if they couldn't have redrawn them to look a little better on the Saturn. The addition of the voices is a huge plus though, which might make this one the better version if that's important to you. It can be a bit tedious to play with a controller, but luckily the game supports the Saturn mouse. And while Farland Saga 2 also got a port to the PlayStation, this one was only ported to the Saturn. Farland Saga is what happens when you update a series to a new graphic style and do it right. I have no complaints about the gameplay, and if you can somehow manage to get the Windows version working right, it looks really good for a 1996 game running with only 256 colors in 640 by 480 resolution. The game is better balanced than previous entries, though a bit on the easy side, which is the way a Farland game ought to be, nice and relaxing to play. And while like in previous games some of the stages may be quite long, they do however feel justifiably so, and with gameplay interesting enough to keep it entertaining. It was rarely a slog like some of the previous games could occasionally be. And while a bit hard to follow in places, the story was also quite good. So yeah, the game earns a definite thumbs up from me, and may even work as a decent entry point for those who don't want to play all the older games in the series. So if you're interested and don't mind the language barrier, definitely give Farland Saga a go. Thanks for watching this episode of The Farland Show. This has been your host, Mr. Jakes, and all these folks you're seeing on your screen right now are my amazing patrons who made this video possible. Thanks goes to all of them, and thank you for watching, as always.